All right, everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to my talk. And it's great to be back in Indie Jam. It's been a while since I've been to this kind of convention because we've been behind closed doors working on two games. One is NSR2, the other one is a game that you might or might not know. So just relax. This is the last talk of the day, if I'm not mistaken. So just relax, let's chill and have some fun because I see everyone is having fun as well. Looking at the wonderful indie games. I just arrived here, by the way. Really sorry about that. Was stuck in Federal Highway for 40 minutes. I would love to give a talk about urban design. But yeah, let's reserve that talk for another day. So today I'm going to talk about controlling the chaos, aligning your team's rhythm to a single vision. So what this means is that I'm sure some of you indie developers want to lead your own team, maybe, right? Because you have a lot of great ideas, but you might not have all the skill sets needed to make that game. So you want to be a game director maybe, or an art director, or something like that, right? But the problem is that you'll be dealing with humans, you'll be dealing with tech. So you'll be dealing with a lot of things. So a bit about myself. I worked in Square Enix from 2010 to 2017. And I was working on the cities in Final Fantasy 15. I was a lead game designer, leading. The team varied in numbers across the year, so from 25 people to around 50 plus people. Even 70 at one point, you know. So I had to lead a lot of Japanese people, and one German programmer who did the AI for the NPCs. So these are the cities that we made. One of them is Ortiche, which is based on Venice, and we even did the small hubs like Hammerhead Petrol Station, for example. And one of my favorite cities is Lestalem. So yeah. If you see a roti canai in Final Fantasy 15, that's my fault. So I think the 3D modeling artists, they are not Malaysian at all. They're Japanese, but they have their research. We went to a Malaysian restaurant in Ikebukuro, that's it, we tarik some teh, and some tea was spilled on the floor. But yeah, it was all good fun. So I was given a chance to even talk to, I was, of course, leading a team, but I also had the chance to even do PR and marketing for Square Enix as well, because, when you're in Square Enix, it's very hard to be the face of the team unless you're really, really given the permission, especially if you're a foreigner. But yeah, I was given a chance thanks to my director, Tabata-san. And back in 2017, I announced in Level Up KL that I'll be leaving Square Enix to make my own company in Malaysia with my cousin Daim. And so I made Metronomik with my cousin Daim. We were very fortunate to win a few awards last year at Level Up for our sequel, No Stray Roads 2. If you don't know what No Stray Roads 2 is,
if it isn't the bunk bed jokers trying to hijack my shoot,
So yeah, that was the trailer that we showed in Gamescom Asia. Sorry about the volume, it was quite loud. So yeah, that was No Stray Roads 2, a sequel to our game back in 2020. There used to be a rock band fighting the EDM empire back in No Stray Roads 1, but now they are going on a road trip to do something which we haven't announced yet, okay? So, first of all, I would like to talk about why we created Metronomik in the first place. So I'm actually a very, very big rhythm gamer. This is, by the way, Pop and Music Lively, and the controller was made by Kit Han, RareTech. Shout out to RareTech. If you want a controller for yourself, a customized controller, please talk to RareTech. Okay. So anyway, so I play a lot of rhythm games. I played rhythm games since Beatmania 1. That was 1995. Okay, and I played rhythm games until today. So the problem is whenever I go to the arcades, I try to invite my cousin or whoever, to play with me, and they said, no thanks, I'll just watch. It's because, I don't want to make a shame of myself, right? I don't want to embarrass myself and all that, because I thought, rhythm games are supposed to be fun. And I think the problem with rhythm games is that sometimes when you're given a guitar, and you don't know how to play the guitar, then you would think that you don't have rhythm sense. But actually, everyone has rhythm sense. It's all about the input device and all that. Our goal is to ensure that we take music, all the theories of music, like pitch, frequency, all that theory, and convert it into something that's more digestible. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. I love rhythm games, of course, but I think that I want to do something different, okay? So how do we make rhythm games, how do we not make rhythm games, but games that are based on music, but you don't need to be on the beat so much, or you don't need to even press buttons on the beat to be able to win the game. So that was one of our challenges. It is a very, very difficult challenge because even for the animator, him or herself, it is very difficult to calculate how long does a punch is needed to be on the beat, right? You have to calculate the frames per beat, the beats per minute, and all that stuff. So it's very, very difficult. So these are my team members. You have to convince every one of these people, and the tech art environment VFX team, and the narrative and game design team, and the game engineering team, the audio and cutscene team, and the producer admin team. This is a lot of team members that you have to convince that, hey, I want to make a music-centered game, a genre that was not very popular at the time, right? Because now we have a lot, right? We have Hi-Fi Rush as well, No Straight Roads, we have so many. But at the time, back when we opened the company back in 2017, it was not that popular. Rhythm games were more popular, definitely. Then I have to convince these 3 people as well. So Daim is my cousin. He used to be the concept artist for Street Fighter V and illustrator for Street Fighter 4. He's my cousin. We were both in Japan for around 8 years. He's still in Japan, by the way. And he's a very, very creative guy. The one next to him is a very weird person. His name is Idir Alexander. He is from France. A lot of French people think that he's not French because he's really, really crazy. He loves to dance. He loves to karaoke a lot. He has all the energy that a game developer does not have, basically. So, in other words, for example, when you go to GDC and all that, then people will invite you for a drink, and then you have to karaoke until 4 a.m. He's the guy who does that. So he also helps to connect all the publishers to us, so that's how we got Shueisha Games for NSR2, and we also have another publisher, which I cannot announce at the moment. And finally, we have Rei Matsura, who's the business development manager, my wife, as well. And she has helped a lot with the Japanese side of things because now even Shueisha Games, there's a lot of back and forth when it comes to Japanese emails and all that. I can speak Japanese, but obviously not as well as a native, and she definitely knows all the business side of things, which is way more important. So you have to convince all these people to make a game that you want to do, right? It is not easy at all, okay? You might not have as many people as us, or you might have more people than us, but the problem is still the same. You have to convince many, many people of your direction. So how are you going to do that? You have a lot of problems at stake at the moment. You want to make a game. Do you know that a lot of games get cancelled because of this? Simply because the director tried to direct, but not enough money, not enough people convinced, or the production just goes on and on and on and on until it gets cancelled, right? I don't want you to be that kind of director, okay? So I hope that you can learn something from what I've learned as a director, because to be honest, even if you can call me a game developer veteran, I've only been director for 7 years, or should I say 8 years now, you know? So it's still quite short, relatively, compared to a lot of other veterans who have been longer as directors. Furthermore, a director of an indie company, right? A company of 28 people, we have directors of 150 people, 200 people, 300 people even, right? So, but at least I want you to learn from my failures or things that I've learned. So first off, I like to talk about primary pillars. I think you know who this guy is, I hope. He's the creator of Super Smash Brothers and also Kirby. And he created Kirby Air Rider recently. So that's what he said when he was talking in GDC back in 2007. I wanted to create a fighting game for people who don't play fighting games, you know? When we opened Metronomik as well, we knew that the genre is going to be different, right? Because I'm a very big fan of breaking rules, you see? So when I know that a rhythm game has to be like this, I want to make sure that I want to make a game that does not conform to the rules of a rhythm game. You know, so that's my challenge, and that's why I feel very, connected to this wonderful person, you know, because he's trying to challenge what a fighting game should be. You know, a fighting game usually, what defines fighting games is Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Tekken, etc., where you have a HP bar, you have the complicated movements, right? Where else Sakurai's tried to remove all of that, change the HP bar to a percentage, make the losing thing not life, but rather if you fall down that you lose, you know. So many things are more casual, very easy to understand. So I think I mentioned this in some of my talks back in the past, but you know, when you talk about trying to get someone to be on the same page as you, you have to make sure that you don't explain what you want first, but why you want it. You know, it's very important for them to know the reasoning. So I also spoke about this, user experience. So user experience for me is something that's very important, and it will tie your entire game. A lot of people, when they talk about UX, they only talk about one small segment of the game. I don't know whether you know the game Journey, for example, right? So Journey is about isolation. So everything in that game is about isolation or the lack of isolation. You know, for example, in Journey, you're walking in a desert, right? You don't know what to do, there are no tutorials, so you feel lonely. But once in a while, there'll be someone joining you in the game, but you cannot interact directly with that person. But you suddenly feel less lonely. So everything is about isolation in that game. So we make sure that the story, the control gameplay, everything is related to the UX. For example, in Final Fantasy 15, the UX was travel with your best buddies through a fantastical yet realistic world. Okay, I was given that task as a lead game designer of the culture team or the town team, and we wanted to make sure that first of all, you have this very romanticized feeling that you're going through a world that is not real, but yet grounded, okay? One of my favorite cities in that game is Altishe. So the first thing that you see is you are traveling with your buddies together, riding on the gondola together. So that's very important. So we want to make sure that there's a camaraderie, there's some interaction with the town as well. Also, if you notice, Venice is not like this. There's no verticality in Venice. So we added verticality to made it more fantastical. And there are some shops that you can only access through the boat, like this one. realistically speaking, if you run a shop that can only be accessed by a boat, you'll be bankrupt very soon. So this can only happen in a video game, right? For No Straight Roads, what we wanted was your music can change the world. So everything in the game is centered around that particular user experience, including the fighting the EDM empire because they ban rock, for example, to the point that you can transform things like props to a weapon for due to your music, you know. So just in case if you don't know what happened in No Straight Roads 1, here's a video.
The age of rock is over.
That's where you're wrong. The power of rock is stronger than ever.
A band called Bunkbed Junction has been slowly claiming our districts.
We need to take action.
But there's nothing we can do about it.
There's always something we can do, Zook. We're not stopping till we claim our fame.
And bring change to the system.
Yeah, that's it.
See that X? It means you're done.
Oh, yeah? Well, how about you take all these X's and shove them up your... First, they rejected us. Then, they denied our right to rock out. This is wrong.
I hate to say this, but I think you might be onto something.
We're gonna rock onwards with all that we've got. Are you with me?
To the very end, May.
We fight for the little guys!
Okay, that was No Straight Roads 1, released 6 years ago. Oh my god. It's been a while. The game, if you noticed, fight for the little ones, right? So even the marketing talks about the UX. So every single thing, every single element, every single part of production is touching upon the user experience. And you as a director are in charge of that. You know, at least in my company, that's how it is. So there are many, many ways for you to use, like communication tools to communicate your, your UX. One very simple way I do to tell my team as to what I want in the game is just using graphs. It is not as boring as it sounds. So for example, for Final Fantasy 15, we want to make sure that we want to have a very grounded town, and then after that, slowly going into fantasy. So we build the towns in such a way that it's following this graph as per your game progress, right? So you start with the petrol station. That's like the most realistic thing that you can ever see in a fantasy game. And then finally, you go to the midpoint where you see Venice being more vertical. There are some ghosts in the town as well, and all this stuff, you know. So there are a lot more fantastical elements in Altische, the Venetian city. The same went for No Straight Roads. Because we want to make sure that that it's music centered, you know, we want to make sure that it's an action game, so we want to make it friendly at first for everyone. So there'll be more visual cues. After that, then you'll be relying more on audio cues compared to visual cues. So the bosses near the end give less hints or signals to attack. So you have to listen to the music because the music loops every minute. So if you have already died a few times for the first loop, I'm hoping that you will learn how to avoid the attacks in the second loop. Okay? And this will be improved even further in No Straight Roads 2. By the way, No Straight Roads 1, there were some parts that were very hard to understand, but we are making the audio cue much easier to understand. So this is still the graph that we are adhering to because we want to make sure that action gamers also get pulled into the game, but they slowly find out that they actually have rhythm sense. That is our goal with all our games. You can also use videos. So this one is very important for me. Of course, using videos of other games might be okay, but sometimes I like to use movies as well. For Final Fantasy 15, when I was first assigned the position of lead game designer, and I was given the UX, which is to have a romantic road trip with your buddies, blah, blah, blah. The first video that I showed was this one.
the future.
This from Back to the Future 2, for those who are too young to know. But Back to the Future 2 is one of my favorite movies. I know a lot of people prefer Back to the Future 1 for the writing, but I loved Back to the Future 2 more for the impact. And this scene was very impactful to me. There are a lot of things that happen in that scene. When you walk up the alley, you see flying cars. Okay, that's simple. But you also see some fashion that's different. And you see on the road, no landing, something that you don't see in the modern world, right? So when I showed this video, everyone understood, okay, once you go to a city, you need to be wowed, you know? So if you notice, in the NSR2 trailer, the first thing that you saw was a flying, like not flying, but more like a cable car of sorts flying above you. For Lesterlam, it's the same. When you drive, we purposely made sure that the cable car gets spawned and travels towards you as you drive towards Lesterlam. So there are a lot of things that are scripted that people might not notice, although it's an open world game. Okay? For No Straight Roads, one of the very first videos that I showed to my team is from a game that I feel very dear to my heart, X-Wing. That's when the hyperspace comes. I mean, the enemy hyperspace is into the space, but they're still not nearby yet. And when they get near, so this is dynamic music back in 1993, I think. So can you imagine? People were already thinking about dynamic music in 1993. This LucasArts, by the way, amazing team. They really cared about audio from, from the. In fact, even Vectrex days. I don't know whether you know what Vectrex is. It's a very, very old console. Okay, but whatever it is, yeah, they were thinking about music and audio design since that time already. So just now, when I showed the X-Wing video, it shows the importance of dominance. That was the point of the video. In other words, when you're in a certain space, if you hear the Empire theme song, then you know that the Empire is dangerous, right? If everything is peaceful, then there's a peaceful music as well. And then there's also the Rebels winning theme as well. So you just hear the music to know who is occupying the space. Back in the time when graphics were very, you can't even see whether an X-Wing is only like around 5 pixels when they're very far, so it's very hard for you to tell how many of your friends or how many of your enemies are in the same space, but with the music, you're able to do that. So for No Straight Roads, I wanted the same thing. I wanted to make sure that you know whether you're winning or someone else is winning based on the music itself. So the next thing I want to talk about is actual experience, So you can make your team go through actual experiences as well. For Final Fantasy 15, we went through something that we never asked for.
Peggy 16.
So I was there in the cave, by the way. That was really horrible experience, but it was really fun. It was really fun. We also went fishing and all that stuff. So a lot of things that I would never think of doing myself. To go into a cave full of centipede or whatever that crawlies are. But yeah, to be able to experience it with your body makes design even easier and makes you understand the UX even easier as well. You know, for the entire team. So sometimes you just have to say one sentence and then, okay, let's go into a cave. Okay, and then let everyone find out how horrible it is to be in the cave. And because of that, a lot of the dungeons in Final Fantasy 15 are scary. So a lot of dungeons before Final Fantasy 15 is all about, yeah, I want to get some coins and treasure and all that, you know. So dungeons didn't feel very scary, but we did it differently in Final Fantasy 15. By the way, the art director of Final Fantasy 15, there are 3 art directors, by the way. One of them, Hasegawa-san, he is crazy about animals. If you see near the end there, he saw a snake on the road, like he was driving, saw a snake on the road and just picked it up. Oh, look at this. You know, it's like nothing. I don't know how he did it, but maybe my fear of snakes are way less because of him as well. You know, for Metronomik, it is a bit less exciting. So, because if you just go to a rock concert, you know, they have been there, you know, and rock concerts actually don't really tell much about, how do I say this, like how music can tally with actions, you know? You're just watching an MTV basically, but live and all that. Also, of course, just like watching the tanks fire just now, you know, you can feel the sound right to your heart. That's also very important. But for No Straight Roads, what we did was we just had a very simple movie watching session. So a lot of them haven't watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And I also very highly recommend the other one. This is Science Saru before it was cool. Okay, Science Saru is the studio behind Dan Da Dan and all that. So before that, the team and the director was working on this movie. And this movie is about a mermaid. It's very, very music driven. It's lovely. So I think it's on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. So have a look. So yeah, we all watched this together, and not only we had fun, but we also knew what is the attitude that NSR should have in the game. Okay, this one is very, very important. I think as a director, sometimes it's hard to convince people just by experience, just by saying things, just by, you know, showing things. Sometimes what you have to do is you have to make it simpler for them to digest and let them make the system for you, and let the system convince them that it can work. So for example, in No Straight Roads, I mentioned to you just now that music signifies the dominance of the enemy or yourself. So we divided the music into 3, backing, melody, and rhythm. And we had the bass version, the EDM version, and the rock version of the music. So we had 3 times 3 tracks for the same boss fight. So at the start of the game, or maybe at the start of the boss fight, you'll start neutrally. Both of you are of equal standing. But when the enemy gets stronger, we switch the backing and melody to EDM. So now you know that they are much stronger, and you don't even need to look at their HP bar to know that they are winning. Once you hit the enemy a few times, then we'll put in the rhythm of your rock. So you signify 1/3 of the dominance of the field right now. So you can see this in action. This Wise, by the way, W Wise, or the Kinetic. Okay, next. And now you can see it in action here. It's a bit soft, but yeah, the guitar is playing right now. So now you know when the enemy is vulnerable and when the enemy is not vulnerable. And so that was to convince everyone about the dominance. So once they see the system in action, everyone was very surprised, and they really loved what the boss fight can do to elevate the experience. Now here's one thing that we have to admit: No Straight Roads was not nicely structured. For every boss fight, it was a customized solution. So these are all, I think they are beats, or no, sorry, it's bars. They're all bars. Okay, for each bar, depending on the boss, you can write whether it attacks at the what second or at what beat. So different boss, different system. It was horrible. It was very, very hard because if you want to debug the game, it's super difficult. But we've learned from that mistake, and we have created a new system. So what happens here is we first thought about how to, because people who don't understand music, they just listen to something. They don't even know what bars are, beats are, and all that stuff, right? So if you see a music sheet like this, and then you have like 4 bars, for example, what we did was divided the system to octets, basically. So because a bar is not enough for us to define the attack. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to that trap. And 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. Okay. So you can define what attacks are happening on which beat of the octet. So now our system looks like this, much cleaner. Okay. Still a bit more improvements, but at least the entire team now understands that this is the only way to register attacks. So everything that they do will snap to the beat. Of course, for animation, it's a bit different. They have to learn a bit more. But at least we have a majority of the team now understanding that, I know, or should I say, they will not make a mistake of things not falling on the beat anymore. Because all you need to choose is the beat itself. Okay? So making a system like this can be very, very important as well to convince your team about how important music is to the game or whatever UX that you're trying to express. Okay, so the major takeaways of this is break down the pillar to actionable rules. So make sure that when you have a pillar, it's not just a pillar and you say that and then you're done with it. You have to make sure that it's actionable by them to do something, And after that, don't let the pillar be an afterthought. Okay, number 2, Dear Hafiz. From 7 Big Games. Sorry, I didn't attend your talk just now. But yeah, I sent him a WhatsApp just to ask him whether there's any anecdote. And he told me that there was one time when his composer didn't agree with the direction. Sorry, you didn't agree with the composer's direction, right, Hafiz? Okay, sorry. But then what Hafiz did was he actually brought in his sound designer to bounce ideas in order for everyone to understand what is the intention. So sometimes it's great to have a second person to bounce things off if it's not working with another. That's what he told me in WhatsApp. Okay, and I very, very agree with this. So chapter number 2 is second opinions. So find your opposites is very, very important. Next, I highly recommend this anime, but we're not talking about this opposite. Okay, so we're not talking about opposite attraction or whatsoever. Yeah, please watch. Remember the 3 people that I talked about just now? The people that I highly regard. These 3 people are also my pillars to understand my game better. So for example, Daim, he loves emergent UX. Emergent means that maybe it's not intended for it to be that way, but somehow something is born and multiple people play in a different way. He hates bullshit and clutter. That means if you want to make the thing animated, he will say, why must it be animated? For example, our Metronomik logo at the beginning of the game was, I want it to be animated. They said, why? People don't look at the logo, right? So he's that kind of person. He's a huge Dark Souls fan, so that means, again, he doesn't like bullshit. Just attack, just roll, just feel the burn. That's it. No UI, not much UI, Just very, very simple attack, avoid, or die mechanics. And he's skeptical towards very new mechanics. So this is actually a bit opposite of me. I love to introduce new mechanics because I want to introduce a new genre. And he said, but I haven't seen that in a game before. Can you prove to me? So I will always have to make sure that I will prove to him. So the more I prove him the new mechanics, the more I'm convinced myself also. Or the other way around, I'm convinced that it doesn't work. So bouncing ideas off him is really, really great. Next, Ida Alexander. This guy, I met him at Square Enix France. We were working together before. I was in Square Enix Tokyo. He was in Square Enix France. He created the biggest fan site of Final Fantasy in France called ffdream.net, the most visitors ever, because he's a die-hard Final Fantasy fan. Okay, he will tell you every single character, every single scene, and he will sing for you "Eyes on Me." Okay, he remembers everything. So he really cares about production quality. So when he looks at the indie game, sometimes he feels like, you know. So I am making an indie game here, and he comes in and, you know. So he does that a lot, and it's good because then we know what kind of things that he wants, and maybe we can improve the quality better. He prefers a linear experience, so he's not an open world kind of person. Actually, it's like me also. And he has little patience if nothing else is happening. In other words, he's an anti-cozy gamer. You know, for example, No Stray Rose 1, he didn't like the first blackout of the game. You know, he was thinking of streamers. When streamers play the game, and you just see a blackout, you just feel like throwing the controller. That's what he said. Okay, I'm not sure whether that's true for all streamers, right? But he can lose his patience very easily. I tried introducing free rent to him. It totally didn't work. Because I told him the 8th episode would be really great, the cutting, yeah. But yeah, he didn't watch it until there even. Next is Rie Matsura. So, my lovely wife. So she loves wholesome games, okay? She loves cozy games, the opposite of Idea completely. And she loves simplicity. So whenever you have mechanics in a game where you have a bit of HP and then you take potion and you heal, but you need something else to blah, 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 then she will just screw you. Okay, I'm not gonna understand this game. She's very fussy over art style, you know, so she has a certain art style that she likes, even if the game is cute, but if it doesn't match her art style, she will not like it as well. So she loves games like Gris, for example, you know, where there's a bit more polish to the art style. And finally, this is very hard for me, because in No Stray Roads, you can game over a lot. So I can see games where she played Okami last time, and she tried to get over this particular part, and she like, screw this, and then she gave up, you know. And after that, she switched on the Nintendo Switch again because it was a remaster. And she looked at the phone and then looked at the walkthrough, then okay. You know? So she's that kind of gamer. So to bounce off my ideas of these 3 people is super important. So find the 3 gamers that are opposite of you. I think it's very important when you want to bounce off ideas. And of course, I'm not only referring to them, I trust my entire team as well. So as you know, Final Fantasy 15, we had a very good photograph system, you know, in place where the AI actually takes photographs for you, and then at the end of the day, when you camp, you can see all the list of photos. This was suggested by one lead game designer without any approval from the director yet. You know, the director just said, okay, you're part of you're the lead game designer of the buddy team, do whatever you want. And he came up with this excellent system. Oh, Gerald, you came in time. Because you're next. And you know, the photo system was greatly regarded by a lot of people. So for example, this was what happened in Final Fantasy 15 team. So before, you had, you know, all the same discipline people in one place, people of the same discipline in one place. But because we have divided the features so well, that after that, Tabata-san has divided us into the different features instead of different departments. So we work closer, nicer together, and the lead game designer of the buddy team also managed to do the photograph system because he has convinced his team to program it first, and it took 2 years to convince everyone that it was a good system, you know? Yeah, so thank God that happened. And you know, the way I hire people in Metronomik is also not whether your resume looks good. I also see whether you have the same personality as another person, then there's a higher chance that I will not hire you, unfortunately. You know, so I want to make sure that people are varied, you know. People always talk about inclusivity and all that, and they just talk about gender and all this, but I also look at interests and personalities as well. I do not want 2 people to clash, all right? And they will bring more to the table, definitely. So for me, after directing around 3 games, I find that this is a very good balance to go through. So first of all, spend 10% of the time just explaining your vision. Make sure that the vision is not super specific, you know. Just say what is the UX that you want, what do you want the game to be and all that. And then you let your team do the magic. I always like this to happen. I want them to surprise me. I don't want the game to be just my game. You know, that'd be boring. But very importantly also, and this is the reason behind a lot of project cancellation, directors sometimes cannot be decisive. Okay? So the last 10%, you have to make sure that you decide on something. You see a lot of great ideas ready, still, you have to choose one of them, you know? So for me, this is the best balance so far. So major takeaways from this is, make your team your main source of excitement, okay? Because you want your team to surprise you. I think that'll be way better for your game and for yourself. Don't be stubborn, be a listener, and also be decisive when it comes to game design and all the things that you want to put in the game. So Gerald, he told me that he wanted to make a room very dark, right? Dark and scary, I guess, or creepy. But it turns out that the user, you cannot see anything, basically, because it's too dark. So it's very hard to play and all that. So what Gerald told me is, what I've learned is that I've needed to shift the focus to what the player should feel instead of what's missing in my scene. So maybe creepy is what you want. So maybe dark is not the answer. Maybe, huh? I don't know, Gerald, is that correct? So instead of what the team wants, it should be what the player wants. Okay, got it. So because I know Gerald loves his skulls and all that, but you know, but yeah, I mean, and he does great skulls, by the way. But yeah, I totally agree with him that you should also look at the player's perspective. So this is the third chapter, which is the third eye. Sorry, about overtime, a bit lah. Okay, all right. So first of all, I want you guys to care a bit about your non-primary target. So let's say your primary target, your primary audience is, let's say, casual gamers, okay? Do you know that hardcore gamers also play casual games? So this is the kind of thing that I want you to question yourself when you think about the third eye. I always tell people that my favorite RPG is Final Fantasy VII, but I also forget to tell sometimes that my other favorite RPG is Skies of Arcadia, because whenever I say this name, some people look at me puzzled, you know? Because I played this on the Dreamcast, it's a fantasy RPG. Let me tell you why. So it's One Piece, basically. It's One Piece, the RPG, but you're flying more often, which is the second half of One Piece. So you have ship battles, something that you don't see in other RPGs, right? A ship-to-ship battle. Sometimes you will see these islands, and the compass will suddenly rotate like crazy. So what does that mean? Sometimes you will discover something new, like there's a whale beneath the island, or you can sell that information for money. But if you are not fast enough, your information will be way cheaper, you know? So there is an information shop in the game. So it's very good for explorers, for example. Near mid-game, you'll be faced with a crisis. You'll be alone, stranded on an island, in which you can have your crew to build buildings to make it your base. So now it's for builders as well. So having all these little things, although Skies of Arcadia might not be for builders, might not be for collectors, you can have a bit of stuff here and there to attract more attention, you know? Then they will also like your UX. So they came in for something else, they like something else, you know? So you get what I mean? So it's like riding on the wave of your UX, basically. And finally, of course, put it out there. This one, I cannot stress enough how important this is. I think that's Daim's voice, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we opened our company in December 2017. If I'm not mistaken, this was done April 2018. That's 5 months after. With how many people that we have in the team? Maybe 7, 8 people? Around there? Yeah, but a bit more maybe, yeah. So, okay, next please. So, not even 1 year after the opening of the company, we have released a demo in Tokyo Game Show 2018, 10 months after the opening of the company. So go ahead. So that was 10 months after the opening of the company. So we already had a demo. We won even two or three awards from Tokyo Game Show. Oh, sorry, nominated and one award. Yeah. So the demo itself has helped to convince the team a lot, because the team they were very worried. You know why? Because I'm a developer myself. I know if I see one stupid block out, and I know that the user is going to see it, I'm going to freak out, right? That's just how we are built. Developers, they will see a lot of weaknesses in the game, but sometimes users do not see that, right? Users will see the bigger picture, whether the experience is great or not. Animators will care about how bad the animation is. Environment artists will care about how is there's a hole in the environment somewhere, this kind of things, right? So to put it out there will also give validation to your team as well. So if you as a director can hurry up that production to ensure that people can touch it, even if it's not Tokyo Game Show, it's okay. Like maybe people from outside the company to be able to touch it, and they can give comments, and your team will feel more validated lah. So that's very, very important in my opinion. So next. So major takeaways is to be more inclusive, but not to the point that you forget your primary pillars. So don't forget your primary pillars, please, but try to inject a bit of that other gamer type content and just get it out there. So that's it. That's the end of my talk. So primary pillars, second opinions, and many third eyes, all right? Okay, thank you. I will take your questions.
Hi, I think we met before doing KL Level Up last year. I'm Aiman.
Nice to meet you again.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm a game designer currently studying at UOW. So I'm a huge fan of user experience. So when we create a player experience, how do we know, like, okay, let's say example, this boss fight, I want player to experience this and that. And how do we, when we created it, how do we confirm and knows that, player will experience this kind of emotions? Because I'm not sure if user experience also, I know it involves emotions, but is there any other things that I need to look out for to give that certain target that we want as a designer?
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you. So user experience, in my opinion, of course other people will have different definitions of user experience, but in my opinion, it's emotional context. User experience is 100% emotional context. I took out some slides because it was too long, but I showed you that the UX had a lot of elements and there was pouring water into a glass, right? So I actually give some examples where the glass of water can mean different things depending on the situation. So a marathon runner would look at it as a thirst quencher. A poor country that only have dirty water coming out from the tap, they will see clean water as something that's very valuable. And then the same glass of water in a high-end restaurant would be seen as cheap, So all this is very, you can have the same thing, but it's the emotional context that's very important. So UX for me, and also, one more thing, it cannot be limited to only your boss, in my opinion lah, okay? To test with your boss, that's okay. But I still call that research. It's still not defining the UX yet. For me, the UX has to encapsulate the entire project. So different bosses can make you feel different things, definitely. But I think what's very, very important is what is the emotional context that you want to convey throughout the entire game, right? Because that will define the macro loop and also the micro loop of the game, right? So yeah, for me it's 100% emotional context lah. Yeah. So how does the user view or should I say experience the game? Is it sad? Is it is it struggling? Like Dark Souls is struggling lah, for sure, and struggling is part of the user experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Or powerless lah, I would say Dark Souls powerless to a certain point. Yeah.
Does it true that certain players will not have the emotions that we want to give, but majority of them will experience that, but certain people don't have that emotions. So let's say that's why in I love Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
It was my favorite game of all
Yeah,
time. So some people don't like that game,
Okay.
but majority of people, this is the greatest game that ever made.
Right.
Yeah. So how I know we cannot target everyone to like our game, is a fact in game industry, but to get the majority of that, to me it's quite difficult.
I agree. It's difficult. Even for No Heroes, it was difficult, and No Heroes 3 is difficult as well. But you're right when it comes to, you cannot get everyone on board on your emotion because everyone has different walks of life, right? So, for example, you show a romance manga, so people who are single, they will feel lonely. People who are married will feel wholesome. So it's just different. But the important thing is this, though, is what the user feels first. Then after that, how they digest the emotion is up to them, But the emotion that you want to convey is the number one priority, For example, a very simple example, if you study cognitive behavior, if you read books by B.F. Skinner and all this, for example, if you want the person to move from that living room space because that person is always blocking the TV, let's say, put an aircon right in front of the seat, then that will lead that person to move, without you telling that person to move. So there are many, many ways to plan certain things to ensure that you get the emotion that you want to convey. After that, how they digest it is up to you. It's up to them, up to them. So the person who is in front of the aircon, if he doesn't move, that means maybe he brings a jacket, let's say, so that's how he conveys, how he solved the solution of the being cold, right? So the result might not be what you want, but the emotion is something that's important to convey. So game designers, we all have this crisis of artist versus game designer kind of thing, But the most important thing is to test the game lah. If you get majority of the people to feel exactly what you wanted to convey, or to even surprise you positively, then that's great for you lah. Yep.
How'd you get in touch with Shueisha Games specifically?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Thank you. So for Shueisha Games, we had some of them come to Level Up KL. They were not in Shueisha Games before this. They were in another company. But they really, really loved our DNA, So one thing that I really get from a lot of publishers that we talk to is they always say they love our DNA. What does that mean is that there are a few things. Number one is we are very sure of what we want to create, right? We are very passionate of that. Number two is the art team as well, So to convert beautiful concept art into something 3D and to be as close to the concept art as possible is also really, really crazy, And of course, the tech behind the music and all that stuff. So that's how we got the contract with Shueisha Games, I believe. Yes.
Right, one more question.
Hello, my name is
Hi.
Scott Tinson, and I'm an aspiring game director.
Oh.
And
Target audience. Yep. Hello.
And I might as well state I'm making things. I'm going to apply for IMDAC next month.
Oh.
And the game's project name is called Machine War.
Okay.
Details a little later if you are interested. But right now I'm only got the idea for the game. And I think it's a pretty solid idea. I think, if I say so myself. But an idea is but an idea. So any advice for how to pitch the idea to MDAC?
Okay, so that's a good question. Pitching, it is always very, 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 very important to not have the same pitch deck for a group of people. Okay? Please make sure that you study a bit of that audience and then you change the PowerPoint even a bit to show that what they want to see. Okay? It might be cheating a bit, but that's pitching lah, right? Pitching is about showing the best of you, right? So for MDEC, for example, they appreciate two things. Number one is the hiring of local talent. Number two is a showmanship of a show of more culture per se. You know, if there'll be bonus points, it's not always the case. And third, I think if you have a portfolio that you have finished a game before, that'll be better, because you know MDEC is using government money to fund. So because of that, if the money is spent on a project that might not be finished, then it'll be bad lah. So you have to showcase that you can finish the project lah. Yeah, I think we have a few more, people who have got the grant, right? So they might have other advice. So after this, you can talk to them as well. But yeah, that for me was the three criteria that Ami told me. The MDEC head now, yes. But yeah, I think that's very important.